Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Robert Kaufman Fabrics, quality fabrics for quilting. Sulky, express yourself with Sulky and create with confidence. And The Warm Company, inspiring products for creative people.
Hello, I'm Jolie Hines-Sayasan. I'm an editor for Quilters Newsletter magazine, and today my guest of honor is Linda Beach, who is an artist from Estes Park, or most recently from Estes Park, Colorado. And today we are going to be talking about her Artist in Residence programs that she has been a participant of. And I am unfamiliar with how Artist in Residence programs work, so could you sort of talk us through how that initially gets started and then what you've been doing?
Sure, and thank you for having me here today. I've done 4 Artist in Residencies through our national park system, and it's a fabulous program because when you think about it, artists were instrumental in creating our national parks. Back when the first parks were created, it was artists who did the beautiful western landscapes and brought them to the attention of the public. So in recent years, the National Park Service has instigated this program where they have artist in residencies that are at most of our national parks. They're all slightly different depending on the location and what's available at that particular park. But they're all similar in the fact that it's a bid process. You put forth a proposal. There is a jury who will look at your work. The park provides housing for you, and your stay could be anywhere from a week to 3 weeks. You could be staying in a remote cabin, or you could be staying at an apartment building or some other facility. They allow you the time to be creative, to spend your time in the park however you want to do it. The only thing they ask in return is that you give public programs while you're there.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes several, usually about 1 a week if it's a multi-week stay. And sometime after your stay, you give them a piece of artwork within 1 year of your stay. So you have plenty of time to prepare something that was inspired by your stay, and you donate that to the park. And they use it as part of their program and outreach and to the visitors, display it at museums or various public buildings. So really it's a wonderful program.
It sounds really fascinating. And then do you, when you submit as part of your proposal, you submit photographs or previous works or just sketches?
All of the above.
All of the above?
Yeah, it just depends. The program is open to writers. They would submit, examples of the work. It's open to poets, visual artists, musicians. In my case, of course, I submitted images of my work and my intent, what I hope to accomplish. And I've been lucky enough to have been chosen over the years for 4 different residencies.
Oh my goodness.
I've been at Denali National Park in Alaska, Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, Acadia National Park on the coast of Maine, and most recently this last fall at Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado.
Oh my goodness. So and obviously we have one of your quilts behind us, and I believe this is Tenacity.
Yes, that was inspired during my stay at Acadia National Park in Maine. I had 3 weeks there. And you're right on the coast, so it's a beautiful location. And when I go to these residencies, I don't bring my sewing machine or really do any type of sewing work there, but what I like to do is spend my time hiking. I love the outdoors, and most of my work is based on nature. So I spend my time hiking, taking photographs, making sketches, and this is something I saw on one of the hikes. What really struck me about Acadia was all the beautiful pink granite everywhere, and these trees that are just seemingly grow out of solid rock.
Right, it's really beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Very lovely.
Thank you very much.
And then you mentioned Denali.
Yes, Denali was my first residency that I did, and they give you 10 days at a very remote cabin within the park. You're 40 miles within the park, and so when the buses quit running for the day because they don't allow private vehicles, you are truly alone in the park.
Oh my goodness.
There was no running water, no electricity. But you have propane heat and water's brought to you, and it's really very comfortable, cozy cabin.
And you're alone there?
I was allowed to bring someone. So many of these residencies you're allowed to bring someone. I bring my husband with me, so I have a hiking companion. And in that case, we were visited by a mother grizzly and her 3 cubs while we were at the cabin. So I was glad to have the companion
Right.
one morning because.
Honey, go check on that noise for me.
Yes, well, we were sitting down to breakfast our last day, having some cinnamon rolls, and all of a sudden the cabin started shaking. And I thought it was an earthquake because we just recently had a very severe one up there. But then I remembered reading in the cabin log about how these bear cubs love to get on the porch and play with the doormat and love to scratch their backs up against the cabin corners. And so immediately I was thinking bear. So I hurried and slammed the door shut because we'd had the door, it's like a triple door system there with crossbars and protruding nails just to keep the animals out. And we had been a little careless about closing the door, so I immediately slammed it shut. We looked out the window, and sure enough, there was a mother grizzly peering back in at us with her cubs.
Oh, my goodness.
But luckily, she ambled on away, and we didn't see her anymore. So
I would have been very glad of that. So.
But aside from the bears, what really interested me about Denali was these immense gravel bars.
Oh.
They've got a lot of huge river systems that are glacial moraines. So this is a photo that I took that was the inspiration of the quilt that I eventually made and donated to the park for display there at their visitors center.
That is just beautiful. So how do you, obviously having this sort of inspiration, how do you decide or narrow down to what you are going to actually end up with? I mean, there must be so many choices that, how would you make a decision in terms of lighting or color, or just that the process has spoken to you, or I mean, how do you decide? It must be overwhelming sometimes.
Well, it's more of what catches my eye, and luckily because of, like I said, there are so many overwhelming choices, but there was only really one that spoke to me as my donation to the park. But what's wonderful and why I love doing these programs is that the inspiration it gives you, I can carry on to my own work. And I did actually probably get maybe 6 or 8 more quilts that were very specific to my time in the park. But just for the one to pick to donate to them, it was easy because just the immense views, and like I said, miles and miles of the glacial moraines. So in that case, it was an easy choice.
That's good. I imagine it would not be easy in the sense of deciding, but as you said, to have so much extra material to work with afterwards would be really exciting, I think.
Well, that's why I think it's such a wonderful program, because as an artist, you get so much more out of it than you give, at least for me, because just having that time to focus on your work without any distractions, it just results in so much creativity for future projects. And
wonderful. And how long were you in Denali?
For about 10 days there
Just
at
the 10
cabin,
days.
yeah. And like I said, they all vary in length. When I was at Acadia in Maine, it was 3 weeks. The most recent residency I did at Mesa Verde National Park, it was 2 weeks.
Oh, I see.
And that was a really wonderful experience because when you're the artist in residence at Mesa Verde, they give you a very traditional hogan to stay in.
I'm sorry, what?
A hogan, it's a native Navajo dwelling. It's sort of, I believe it's an octagon shape. There's a very traditional shape to it. The doorway should be facing east to greet the morning sun. And the walls are very thick. So it remains cool even with the heat of the high desert. And just a very interesting, wonderful place to stay and absorb the atmosphere of Mesa Verde.
Right. And so then you obviously took the same sorts of steps. You took photographs and hiked.
I did a lot of hiking.
Went through the national park. Just
You're very lucky, and when you're at Mesa Verde, is that the feature of the park naturally are the ancient dwellings and the ruins. You're given keys to that area.
Oh wow!
So you're able to go and spend time at these special places. After the visitors have gone for the day, you can go to backcountry areas and sit and have time to contemplate and take your photos and take your time and sketch or do whatever you would like to do. And when I was at Mesa Verde, of course, I spent all my time hiking again. But this was a photo I took on one of the hikes that ended up being the inspiration for the piece that I did.
Wow.
And what you're looking at here is this blurriness in the foreground is the wall of a ruin. The hole is where the roof beam support went through the wall. Of course, it's long since disappeared over time, but you're looking through the hole of where the roof beam support was at additional ruins in the background.
My goodness.
So this is the photo that I decided to base my work upon, And then on that same hike, I also, we passed a wall, my husband and I, of different petroglyphs.
Oh my goodness. Just etched right into the, carved right into the rock?
Right, and the designs really intrigued me, so I thought, well, I'll take photos of these because I think these could make fabulous quilt designs on a future quilt. And there's a lot of great empty space around the focal point. I thought I'd incorporate these. So this is the design, the sketch that I ended up working from. And you can see behind me there's the finished piece. Of course, there's a little artistic license in the dwelling that you see.
Right.
And some of the colors, but I do a piecing technique. So I work from a pattern that I draw here. I'm making freezer paper templates and sewing each of these pieces together and constructing it in the same way that you would a very traditional quilt.
So none of this is applique, none of your work?
I never do applique, no. All my work is piecing.
Oh my goodness. That adds that extra challenge into getting not just the look you want, but being able to achieve that within the structure of the piecing and it's not foundation pieced.
No, no. I'm working from separate freezer paper templates traced off of a drawing like this. But to me, that's part of the fun, is the challenge of piecing, how it dictates your line and your composition. So I enjoy that.
Oh, it's just so interesting to see from the photo to the sketch that you did and to the finished piece of work. Is just amazing. And this is yours? I mean, this is your particular one, or this is for the residency?
This is going to be for Mesa Verde National Park. I will be sending it off to them shortly, and this will be the piece that I will donate to them.
That they will have hanging. And then where will they have it? Within the visitor center or a special
I'm not
area?
sure. It's up to each park. You know, they're all slightly different. Like I said, some will hang at the visitor center. Some have a program where it's on display, or they may sell it after a period of time and split the money between the artists and the park. Some hang it in administrative offices. I mean, like I said, it all varies depending on each particular park's needs and space they have.
Well, it's all fascinating. Thank you very much for coming in and explaining the process of Artist in Residence, and obviously showing us your wonderful inspiration and quilts. And I should also mention that Linda is our meeting place artist featured in our June-July issue of Quilters Newsletter magazine. So you'll want to pick up a copy of that and see more of her wonderful quilts. And also please go online to quiltersnewsletter.com, where you can see a gallery slideshow of even more of Linda's work. Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Quilters Newsletter TV, the quilters community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Robert Kaufman Fabrics, quality fabrics for quilting. Sulky, express yourself with Sulky and create with confidence. And The Warm Company, inspiring products for creative people.